We're back with more food. I know what you're thinking. 2 videos in 1 week? Spoiled. Yes, you are. But first, I want to give a quick thank you to today's sponsor, which is Skillshare. We took a little break there, but as you guys know, I've been using Skillshare for like over a year, probably a couple years now, because it's so resourceful. So if you're not familiar, Skillshare is an online learning community where there are thousands of classes on pretty much any category. So you can find ways to either pick up new skills or develop the skills that you already have for as little as $10 a month. As a member, you get to experience classes, but like for real life, meaning you can manage them whenever you have time in your schedule while still seeing real growth. Personally, I've been taking some classes on productivity, so I've been toying around with some different apps to see which one I like best. I've been taking your Notion Beginner's Guide Quick Start by Francesco D'Alessio because the app is so extensive in its capabilities, but man, it takes a learning curve. So I found this course to be like really helpful for becoming familiar with the basics so that you can move into the more advanced stuff with more ease. So if you guys would also like to become a member, the first 1,000 people to use the link in the description box will get a free trial of Skillshare's premium membership. So we're making one of my favorite soups, which is actually, I don't normally make it with acorn squash. I normally use butternut squash, but for some reason I bought this. So we just gonna go with that. And I know that like in other places, if it's a squash, you just call it pumpkin. So are they really any different? Is the flavor like wildly diverse? Well, after I made this, I realized that it is. So number one, I do recommend that you actually use butternut squash, but if you don't have it, this will work. And also technically you can eat the skin, but I am peeling mine first and then dicing it. You do want to make sure that your pieces are relatively the same size because it means that then things will cook evenly. I'm using onions as if I would ever not. And we're also using apple because this is supposed to be a butternut apple soup. And normally I'd use like gala apples, not a green apple, but you use what you got, you know? Starting by sauteing my onions, and again, normally I would use thyme, but apparently I like to make dishes that I would normally make with none of the original ingredients. But that's what cooking is about, at least in my house. Looking at your refrigerator and saying, okay, how are we gonna make this work? So instead, I'm using oregano, which is fine because oregano is also, as you guys know from the food scraps video, one of the main herbs that I use in the broth. But if you haven't, go watch it. And as a little reminder, remember all of the recipes are down in the description box, as well as a link to all of my kitchenware, or at least what's still available. So that'll take you to kind of like a Pinterest board where you can see everything by picture. So it's just more organized and I think a little more convenient for you guys. We're gonna cook that until our squash is nice and soft, meaning it is fork tender, or in this case, spoon tender. So you can cut right through it with a spoon or stab into it with a fork. Then you just blend. Also make sure that you're tasting for seasoning. And just like before, when I first showed you guys this recipe in my what I eat in a day video, yeah, I did that once. On that video, I used coconut yogurt. Here, I'm using cashew cream. Highly recommend. And again, normally I would top this with thyme, but oregano will have to do. Another day, another soup. I really like soup, don't you guys? Because seriously, you make everything in one pan, like who wouldn't? So besides all of the dicing and chopping, it's like so easy. Actually, technically, you guys could just roast all of these ingredients like you see me do before for other soups and pasta sauces, or just blend everything first. Ooh, that's a good idea. Like, should I do a blender meals video? I've never seen that before. So what I'm doing here is I'm making a carrot and fennel soup, but I decided to take it one step further by adding lentils. So here I'm using red lentils in case that wasn't already apparent. And again, I'm using no-chikn broth, but also adding in some like regular vegetable broth at the very end. For some reason, I'm assuming I was just trying to use up. I'm gonna let that stew. But while I'm waiting, I'm also making some strawberry jam. If you are not new to my channel, you've seen me make this so many times before. And this is just me showing you guys that also the color of your jam can be drastically affected by the type of chia seeds that you're using. So if you're just like purely going for aesthetics, or if you're taking pictures of your food, go for the white, which will keep the color like brighter and not make the overall hue look darker. As you can see, I just added enough liquid to kind of cook the lentils. And although I did have more chicken stock, I decided not to add any more to it and just keep this thick and hearty. But if you do want a thinner soup, just feel free to add a little bit more. As I'm sure some of you have noticed, yes, I have a new pan. In fact, I have several, because although I have enjoyed my always pan over the last, I think almost year I've had it. Although you can use it for anything, I used it for everything. When you're making a meal with several different components, all of those elements cannot be cooked together and or at the same time. So prime example, pasta. Usually you're boiling water for your pasta while you're sauteing whatever is going in the sauce. So obviously I had to do one or the other, one at a time. So I got these, and if you guys want me to talk about this more, then just let me know, because I am actually working on a video coming soon where I show you guys everything in my kitchen, like literally everything. Now this next recipe is like debatable. Is it really fall inspired? No. But it does contain Brussels sprouts, which is definitely of the season. So that's why I'm including this in here, but I'm going for more Asian flavors. However, I'm showing it to you guys anyway because I ate it. And number two, because you can just totally switch up the sauce. Here I'm using a gochujang. This is the tangy one. Instead, you could go for barbecue sauce, not autumnal at all, or like a balsamic glaze. Feel free to take your favorite marinade, doesn't matter what it is. In fact, you could also technically use a salad dressing. If you want to, you can just like add some tomato puree to like beef it up, and there you go. You've got a roasty, glazy thing. Yes, that's a technical term. And I'm making a grain bowl, so I'm gonna add some protein by way of tofu. To finish it off, I just added a little bit of coconut aminos and this chili oil. This is the one that I talked about on my Instagram stories. I can never remember the name, so I'll link it down below. And of course, because there's no onions in this dish, I had to add some scallions. Another item that's in season right now are figs, and as you can see from this stack right here, I bought them and apparently forgot that they ever existed in my refrigerator. So they're a bit dry, a bit shriveled, but still totally doable. However, when things look less than appealing, I tried to change their appearance. So the perfect way to proceed in my mind was to make jam. But not the jam that you guys usually see me making, because that's the raw version. That's what I call a quick jam. The way jam is traditionally made is by cooking it, because this makes it last longer, turning it into a preserve. So the quick chia jams that I make should be treated like fresh produce and eat them within a week, as long as you package them properly in sterilized containers. These you can store for months. And now that it is absolutely freezing outside, as you guys have seen me make before, I really like a golden latte, but I just was not drinking them because I don't really enjoy sweating. But this time I used my macadamia nut milk, which as you guys can see is so thick and creamy. And the reason why is because to benefit from the ingredients, curcumin, which is the active ingredient in turmeric, is fat soluble. So I'm using the high fat content of that macadamia nut to help absorption. Another food that I'm obsessed with all year round, really, and I'm sure you've seen plenty of times on this channel as well, is sweet potatoes. So these I'm gonna roast with some maple syrup, a little bit of cinnamon to make some sweet yams. And because, you know, I like to get those greens in, I'm also going to make some kale, but you could also sub this for collard greens if you want to. Personally, I don't like to boil my greens unless I'm actually going to be also eating the broth, because it just makes them kind of like lifeless. I feel like, yes, they're soft enough to eat, but they also lose all of their color and probably therefore a lot of their nutrients. So I prefer to saute or steam where I can to make the greens palatable, but also still kind of fresh, if that makes sense. So these I'm just sauteing with some leeks, garlic, and vegan bacon. And of course, adding a little spice. I'm using red pepper flakes. You could also use a little bit of cayenne pepper. I just don't have any. Also, adding nutmeg to your greens is said to really bring out the flavor as well. So you could try that. Again, I ain't got none. And because I don't like technically celebrate Thanksgiving for obvious reasons, I don't make anything different on that day. I just cook regular food, but since I know some of you do, I figured I'd throw in like a snack option, because in case y'all didn't know, like Black folk, we just don't eat all day. There's no breakfast and lunch before Thanksgiving dinner. Like you just wait till the food's done, and who knows what time that is. So in case anyone needs a snack, feel free to use the fig jam that we made earlier on some crackers to make like a little, you know, cheese plate. Here I have some apples, but I completely forgot that I had pears, which is what I intended to show you guys in this video, but that's besides the point. All of the cheeses and stuff that I'm using will be listed in the description box below. If you guys need any more inspiration, I've linked some specific episodes below that have like my mac and cheese, shepherd's pie, garlic mashed potatoes, and other recipes that would make great fall dishes. So if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week. Bye.